For my water quality final project, I have chosen to study the impairment of the Ivy Creek located near Lynchburg, Virginia, and it is in the James River watershed. This is a more detailed area of the Ivy Creek. All along the blue it is impaired. On the previous slide it was in the red. It starts where Cheese Creek enters the Ivy Creek. Cheese Creek is not recognized by the EPA, but it is an impaired water system, and it ends where Ivy Creek feeds into the Blackwater Creek. A little bit of background before we proceed. The Ivy Creek has been on the impaired list since 2010. This is the first time that the creek has made the impaired list. The cause of it being on the list is for benthic macroinvertebrates, and the origin of the impairment is unknown. But no TNTL has been implemented yet, and about 20 miles of the stream are impaired, starting from Cheese Creek all the way to where it ends as it feeds into the Blackwater Creek. The area is located right next to the rapidly developing Lynchburg. It runs through farmlands, rural areas, residential sections, mountains, and urbanized areas. Development has been a major cause of the impairment of this stream, and it originates from the mountain in the south, Candler's Mountain. The area has steep topography in parts and very high slopes, which we'll talk about later, and many streams leading to it as it flows through. One of the main causes of impairment comes from the urban area section of the stream, where there are a lot of impervious surfaces such as concrete or asphalt roads. Chemicals from the roads cannot properly run off into the ground and will get directly dumped into the stream, which is not good. Stormwater runoff goes directly into the stream as well. The city has been known for its poor drainage and inability to handle these chemicals, and that is why a lot of the streams around the city of Lynchburg are impaired, and there has been a rapid increase and development in urbanization throughout the city as the city is expanding and more natural areas are being knocked down and developed. That also affects the amount of nutrients available for the stream. Another section of the cause of impairment will be the rural and residential areas. Development of the sloped lands with high slopes over 12 to 15% have started being developed more and have caused landslides and sedimentation. Improper fertilizers and pesticides used in agricultural areas around the city are also leaching into the water due to poor drainage and overuse of the fertilizers and the pesticides. The residential areas also are being rapidly developed and expanding due to the increase of population for the city of Lynchburg. Deforestation and cutting down of trees to make room for these residential developments are also causing the soil to become less healthy than it would be. And another main cause of the impairment from the residential areas are the poorly maintained and very old septic systems that were in place a long time ago and need to be updated but have not been. One suspicious note that I did find, as you can see here, the start of the impairment, the image on the left, is from the EPA website. Where it starts becoming impaired, you can see from the image on the right, is the exact same location that the Cheese Creek runs into the Ivy Creek. Unfortunately, the Cheese Creek is not listed on the EPA as any water system, let alone impaired, but it does look like it is a main cause of impairment for the Ivy Creek. So a starting step for the EPA would be to develop TMDL and analysis on the Cheese Creek. The main water quality and monitoring protocol should be to designate about a year for all the testing. Each week make tests for the stream's conditions, for its nutrient levels, its sediment levels, its temperature, pH, and dissolved oxygen levels. The 20-mile-long creek will require at least 10 sampling sections, which will be about 2 miles apart each. The weather, the season, recent storms should all be documented as to explain trends in the data. The monitoring of benthic macroinvertebrates should occur at least twice a year, if not every month. The EPA has protocol listings out for this testing, and each stream is different and must be evaluated differently to make a plan. There are two types of testing mainly, single habitat and the multi-habitat form. Single habitat approach is what we'll be using for the Ivy Creek. Documentation of the surroundings and the setting are necessary as each stream is different and each one needs its own personalized plans. There should not be any river crossings or impairments of the river 100 meters upstream from the point that you're testing to ensure the proper flow of the river. No tributaries or other side streams should be discharging in the area of study as to get a clean sampling area. Your first step will be to draw a map with all the attributes of the immediate area in the stream around the testing site. Habitat approach, anything within a 100-meter radius of the testing point is good to sample. You'll have to sample at different velocities of the water to ensure that you're getting the whole sample. A minimum of 2 meters squared composite area will be sampled. Sampling will be proceeded from the downstream to upstream. For the sample, you will be using a 1 meter kick net, and 2 to 3 kicks will be sampled each time. A kick is a stationary sample that you get from the net. Each kick will be composited into a single sample. After each is collected, you need to wash out with clean stream water to avoid clogging of the sample and net. If it happens to be clogged, then the sample must be discarded as there are contaminants in there. Once you have a good sample, you will preserve it in a 95% ethanol container, and afterwards you need to perform a habitat assessment and then head to the lab for analysis. Sediment testing is also necessary as sediment is a large problem. The main threat is due to the development of the sloped areas. Taking away all of the natural vegetation will cause the soil to become less stable and the slopes to slide and make the topography unnatural. It acts as a medium for transport of chemicals such as pesticides and PCBs that easily can leach into the water. There are 3 main methods for sediment testing: evaporation, filtration, and wet sieve filtration. The method that should be used on the Ivy Creek is the filtration method for a couple of reasons. 1, it takes the least amount of time. 2, the range of samples is much larger. There's less size restrictions or concentration restrictions. And the sediment does not have to settle, like in evaporation, where you do have to wait for all the sediment to settle naturally. And all particles will be accounted for in the filtration. You will not lose some due to certain sizes. After all of the tests, it is still good to have good water quality control. Water quality monitoring is key to maintaining a healthy stream system. Benthic macroinvertebrates are key indicators as if a system is healthy or not, because they are affected by so many things such as pH, temperature, nutrients, the dissolved oxygen, and sediment in the stream. The number one thing that you can do right now is to implement a TMDL for the Ivy Creek, as a lot of information is unknown because the TMDL has not been implemented yet. The only way to gather the information to fix the system. It helps identify goals for the water quality, and you can focus in on certain points that you'd like to improve. TMDL will also identify source and non-source pollutions for the stream. Other remediation measures will include stormwater management. Stormwater has to have a better place to go and better drainage, as it contains many chemicals when it rains, and the runoff cannot go directly into the groundwater due to impermeable surfaces. There are many developmental problems as well. As the population in the city of Lynchburg is increasing, more residential areas are being built, more septic systems are being in place, and slopes are being and vegetation are being cut down to make room for more of these development and the increasing urbanization. It is important to know that increase of urbanization can cause a lot of problems, especially in water quality control. The development of wooded areas and vegetation along the banks of the Ivy Creek is also important, as it will stabilize the soil and it will also bring more nutrients to the soil, which will be better for the aquatic life. Environmental education is also key into cutting back on water quality problems. The more educated and the more aware people are of these issues, such as the water quality in Ivy Creek, the better steps that we can take to solving these problems or preventing them in the future.